Hey, it's Medium Jenny Lee. I'm here with the next raw discussion video. We are on number 40. 40, which means this is video 41. Whew, okay. All right, Don's first question. I thought that I would make a statement and let you correct it. I'm trying to make a simple model of the portion of the universe that we find ourselves in, starting with the logos or sublogos, our sun. We have white light emanating from this. This is made up of frequencies ranging from red to violet. I'm assuming that this white light then contains the experiences through all of the densities, and as we go into the 8th density, we go into a black hole which emerges on the other side as another logos or sun and starts another octave of experience. Now remember, that's Don's assumptions. That's what Don thinks is happening. That's where he's at. Ra says, we can comment upon this statement to an extent. The concept of the white light of the sublogos being prismatically separated and later at the final chapter being absorbed again is basically correct. However, there are more subtleties involved, which are more than semantic. The white light which emanates and forms the articulate sublogos has its beginning in what may be metaphysically seen as darkness. The light comes into the darkness and transfigures it, causing the chaos to organize and become reflective or radiant. Thus the dimensions come into being. So some things already that this is making me think of is, one, today is October 1st, and tonight is my class, my first class that I'm teaching, woo-woo class that I'm teaching. And it's the whole first part of it's going to be about chakras. And I've been thinking a lot about how the chakras are the colors of the rainbow. The rainbow is white light broken down into its various parts. And it's all connected. All of it is all connected. Because we are light. We are light beings. We are made of light. And that's why we have these energy centers that are the same exact thing. Because broken down, we are each color, just as light is broken down into each color. So that came up so far already. And then the other thing that this part reminds me of, causing the chaos to organize. In one of the very first spirit arts that we did, the spirit that came through, which was kind of like our Eastern philosophy spirit. He reminds me of, like, he's got like a Buddhist vibe to him. It was the water. It was like the ocean picture with the sun shining down on it, and I'll put the link for it in the comments of the video of it. That spirit said that chaos was necessary for life. And here it is. Here it is again. Conversely, the blackness of the black hole, metaphysically speaking, is a concentration of white light being systematically absorbed once again into the one creator. So the black hole is all of the stuff being absorbed into the one creator. Finally, its absorption into the one creator continues until all the infinity of creations have attained sufficient spiritual mass in order that all form once again the great central sun. Spiritual mass starts to come up quite often from here on out, and I think that's a pretty interesting subject. If you would imagine it, of the intelligent infinity awaiting potentiation by free will. Thus the transition of the octave is a process which may be seen to enter into timelessness of unimaginable nature. Timelessness. To attempt to measure it by your time measures would be useless. Therefore, the concept of moving through the black hole of the ultimate spiritual gravity well and coming immediately into the next octave misses the sub-concept or corollary of the portion of the process which is timeless. So basically Don's theory that once everything goes back into the creator or into the black hole, that it kind of like goes out the other side and starts all over again, was the part of Don's assumption or theory that was not correct. Because there's a timelessness which we can't even fathom that takes place before things start to move outward again. Our astronomers have noticed that the light from spiral galaxies is approximately 7 times less than it should be from their calculations of what their mass should be. I was just wondering if that was due to the increase of spiritual mass in the galaxies and what we call white dwarf stars. Ross says this is basically correct and is a portion of the way or process of creation's cycle. Interesting, it's 7. That's always an important number, it seems. I was just wondering if the first density corresponded somehow to the color red, the second to the color orange, the third to the color yellow, and so on through the densities corresponding to the colors, and perhaps a way so that the basic vibration that forms the photon, that forms the core of all atomic particles, would have a relationship to the color and the density. And that the vibration, and that vibration would set up for a second, third, and fourth density corresponding to increase in the vibration of the colors. Is that anyway correct? This is more correct than you have stated. Firstly, you are correct in positing a quantum, if you will, as the nature of each density, and further correct in assuming that these quanta may be seen to be of vibratory natures corresponding to color as you grasp this word. However, it is true, as you have suspected, but not asked, that each density is of the metaphysical characteristic complex of its ray, which was something I was going to teach in my class tonight. So, the first chakra is the root, which is red, which is of the earth. Second is the orange, which is the combination of the earth and body. The third is the yellow. Well, second is sacral, orange, which is earth and body. Third is yellow, solar plexus, earth, body, and self-aware. It's your will. Fourth, heart, green, earth and body, and self-aware plus love. Fifth, blue, throat, wisdom, communication. Fifth, indigo, third eye. It's a combination of love and wisdom. Seventh, violet, crown, totality. Isn't that amazing? Amazing. I wrote, wow. Thus, in first density, the red ray is the foundation for all that is to come. And second, the orange ray is that of movement and growth of the individual, this ray striving toward the yellow ray of self-consciousness, manifestations of a social nature as well as individual. Third density being the equivalent, and so forth, each density being primarily its ray plus attractions of the following ray pulling it forward in evolution, in some extent coloring or shading the chief color of that density. Then the bodily energy centers of each of an individual would be, assuming that the individual evolves in a straight line from first through the eighth, would each of these energy centers or chakras be activated to completion if everything worked as it should? Would each be activated to completion in greatest intensity by the end of the experience of each density? Hypothetically speaking, this is correct. However, the fully activated being is rare. Much emphasis is laid upon the harmonies and balances of individuals. It is necessary for graduation across densities for the primary energy centers to be functioning in such a way as to communicate with intelligent infinity, as to appreciate and bask in this light of all its purity. However, to fully activate each energy center is the mastery of few, for each center has a variable speed of rotation or activity. The important observation to be made, once all necessary centers are activated to the minimal necessary degree, is the harmony and balance between these energy centers. Don says, taking as an example the transition between second and third density, when this transition takes place, does the frequency of vibration which forms the photon, the core of all particles of the density, does this frequency increase from a frequency corresponding to second density or orange, the frequency we measure for the orange color, to the frequency we measure for the color yellow? What I'm getting at is, do all the vibrations that form the density, basic vibrations of the photon, increase in a quantum fashion over a relatively short period of time? This is correct. Then you see within each density the gradual upgrading of vibratory levels. So Don's asking if the color of the vibration is the same vibration of the density. Yes, with a gradual upgrading with each level. Would the frequency going from second to third increase from the middle orange frequency or average orange frequency to the middle yellow frequency or average yellow frequency? This query is indeterminate. We shall attempt to be of aid. However, the frequency that is the basis of each density is what may be called a true color. This term is impossible to find given your system of sensibilities and scientific measurements, for color has vibratory characteristics both in space-time and in time-space. The true color is then overlaid and tinged by the rainbow of the various vibratory levels within the density and the attraction vibrations of the next true color density. So the color itself is being attracted by the next color. How long was the time of transition on this planet between second and third density? Generation and a half, I believe. Is that correct? That is correct. The time measured in your years being approximately 1,350 years. Then what will be the time of transition of this planet from third to fourth? Don, are we ever going to get there? This is difficult to estimate due to the uncharacteristic anomalies of this transition. There are at this space-time nexus beings incarnate which have begun fourth density work. However, the third density climate of the planetary consciousness is retarding the process. At this particular nexus, the probability vortices indicate somewhere between 100 and 700 of your years as transition period. This cannot be accurate due to the volatility of your peoples at this space-time. This was in 1981. It's 2022, and we are not any less volatile. And as a matter of fact, we might be worse. Good job, everybody. Okay, has the vibration of the photon of all our particles increased in frequency already? This is correct. It is this influence which has begun to cause thoughts to become things. As an example, we may observe the thoughts of anger becoming those cells of the physical bodily complex going out of control to become what you call cancer. Anger is becoming cancer. Yikes. Okay. Our vibration started increasing about 20 to 30 years ago. Is that correct? The first harbingers of this were approximately 45 of your years ago. The energies vibrating more intensely through the 40-year period preceding the final movement of vibratory matter through the quantum leap. I don't know what they're talking about here. Starting then, 45 years ago, taking the entire increase in vibration that we will experience in this density change, approximately what percentage of the way through this increase of vibration are we in now? Oh, going from third, because the Earth is going from third to fourth. That is what they're talking about. The vibratory nature of your environment is true color green. This is at this time heavily overwoven with the orange ray of planetary consciousness. However, the nature of the quanta is such that the movement over the boundary is that of discrete placement of vibratory level. So Dawn asks, you mentioned that thoughts of anger are now causing cancer. Can you expand on this mechanism as it acts as a catalyst or its complete purpose? The fourth density is one of revealed information. Selves are not hidden to self or other selves. The imbalance or distortions which are of a destructive nature show in more obvious ways the vehicle of the mind-body-spirit complex, thus acting as a teaching resource for self-revelation. These illnesses, such as cancer, are correspondingly very amenable to self-healing once the mechanism of a destructive influence has been grasped by the individual. So you're saying that cancer is quite easily healed mentally and is a good teaching tool because it is quite easily healed mentally, and once the entity forgives the other self at whom he is angry, cancer will disappear. This is partly correct. The other portion of healing has to do with forgiveness of self and greatly heightened respect for the self. This may conveniently be expressed by taking care of in dietary matters. This is quite frequently a part of the healing and forgiving process. Your basic premise is correct. In dietary matters, what would be the foods that one would include? What would be the foods that one would exclude? In a general way, for the most or the greatest care of one's bodily complex. Firstly, we underline and emphasize that this information is not to be understood literally, but as a link, a psychological nudge for the mind, the body, and the mind and the spirit. Thus, it is the care and respect for the self that is the true thing of importance. In this light, we may iterate the basic information given for this instrument's diet. Vegetables, fruits, grains, and to the extent necessary for the individual metabolism, animal products. These are those substances showing respect for the self. In addition, though, this has not been mentioned, for this instrument is not in need of purification. Those entities in need of purging the self of poison, thought form, or emotion complex do well to take care in following the program of careful fasting until the destructive thought form has been purged, analogously with the byproducts of ridding the physical vehicle of excess material. Again, we see the value not to the body complex, but used as a link to the mind and spirit. Thus, self reveals self to self. Let's take a minute here to kind of go over what is being talked about. So, if we back up a little bit, because our Earth is going in, in 1981, our Earth has already started the shift into the fourth density. The planet itself, let's remember, not the people. The planet has moved into the fourth density. And because of that, thoughts start becoming things, which I'm curious to know. So this is in 1981, and Ra says approximately 45 years ago, the energies were vibrating more intensely through a 40-year period preceding the final movement. So for about 85 years, things were starting to shift energetically on the planet. And so when did Cancer first appear? The earliest cancerous growths in humans were found in Egypt and Peruvian mummies dating back to 1500 BC. So cancer's been around a long time. But I feel like for us, it really seemed like it took off at an exponential rate within the last 100 years or so. And maybe that's because we weren't completely aware of it all the time, because we didn't have great medical treatments and ways of finding it. But it feels like it's gotten worse. I mean, I don't know that scientifically. But it seems like it's gotten worse. And it kind of fits in with the time frame, I feel like, of what they're talking about here. So if thoughts can become things, and anger causes cancer, anger at other people and anger at ourselves, Ra is saying that it can be easily healed. That's tough to swallow, isn't it? It can be easily healed by forgiving others and forgiving yourself. And part of the biggest thing of it is respect for yourself. A greatly heightened respect for yourself, which we have such a hard time doing, and I don't even understand why. Like, where did that even come from? And one of the ways we can have good respect for ourselves is by eating healthy. Which I would have to say that most of us have realized that when we eat garbage, it's usually to try to make us feel better, and it's just a temporary fix, because really it doesn't make us feel better. You know what I mean? But when we take the time and really greatly care for ourselves, we wouldn't eat all that crap. If we really truly had great respect for ourselves, we wouldn't eat that crap. So if we're having good respect for ourselves, we would eat healthier. And if we're able to forgive ourselves for any wrongdoings that we've done in the past, and we're able to forgive others for their wrongdoings, we can alleviate the anger and the cancer will disappear. Wow. But, you know, that brings up questions about, like, childhood cancers and stuff. When you bring children into all of these different scenarios of why things happen, like the law of attraction says that we bring stuff to us based on our thoughts and feelings, why would a child have these particular things? And that throws a wrench in all of that stuff to me. So, you know, I understand it as an adult, but I don't understand it for a child. And I don't know if there's really a good answer for that, you know? Let's keep going. Okay, so then Ra had just mentioned fasting to get rid of destructive thought forms. So Dawn's going to ask about that. Does the fact that the basic vibration that we experience now is green true color or fourth density account for the fact that there are many mental effects upon material objects that are now observable for the first time in a mass way, like the bending of metal by mind? Which there was a guy that, like, I think the Puharich guy was with, that could bend spoons. And he might not have been connected to that guy, but I remember looking over. They had mentioned this person before who could bend spoons with his mind. Ross says, this is not only correct, but we suggest you take this concept further and understand the great number of entities with so-called mental diseases being due to the effect of the green ray true color upon the mental configurations of those unready mentally to face the self for the first time. Dang. Yeah. I can feel that one right there. Okay. Well, I thought he was going to ask about fasting, but maybe he talks about that and maybe he asks about that in another session. Anyway, let's keep going. With respect to what you just said, would then people incarnated by seniority of vibration who incarnate for the service to self path be ones who would have extreme difficulty mentally with this green ray vibration? Wrong. Incorrect. It is rather the numbers who have distracted themselves and failed to prepare for this transition who are somewhat susceptible to this influence, who may be affected. Because the service to self people are way more advanced in the green ray than those who aren't. Duh, Dawn. Duh. All right, so this is wrapping up the session. They always ask if there's anything they can do to make Carla more comfortable. This time Ross says, the appurtenances cause this instrument great comfort in the distortion of the warmth of the body complex. Greater comfort. So all the stuff they're doing gives her greater comfort. In the distortion of the warmth of the body complex. Maybe they're talking about socks. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. Is another word for appurtenances socks? Because remember they told her one time to put some damn socks on. To wrap up session 40, video number 41, let's review what we've learned today. Everything moves through space, because everything's made of light, back to the one creator, which is the blackness of the black hole. Then we sit in a timeless state until it will start all over again. Spiritual mass was introduced a little bit here, which will be introduced more later. And then we learned some really cool stuff about the colors and the chakras and how they relate to the densities. And it's all connected. It's all the same, which was really fascinating. To me, I guess. Hopefully you also thought it was fascinating. Let me know in the comments if you did. And then we found out that it's extremely rare for somebody to have fully activated and harmonized chakras all the way through. Then it talked about changing densities and the color changing, the vibrations changing, and that we have no scientific measures for such things. Then it talked about us switching from our Earth switching from 3rd density to 4th density, and what kinds of things that's doing to our vibrations, making thoughts things, causing people to have cancer because of their anger, causing people to have more mental illness because they're not willing to look at themselves. But good news, according to Ra, cancer can be easily healed if we learn how to forgive ourselves and others and have great respect for ourselves. And one of the ways we can do that is not eating garbage. It's eating things that are actually good for us. Which, scientists and doctors have been saying for a long time. and Ra just verified it all. So that's the end of this session. I hope that you enjoyed it. Please put some comments in down below. I'll make sure I put in the video for the spirit art that I mentioned earlier. And thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. If this is the first Ra video you've seen of mine, you should go back and watch the other ones. They're better in order. And there'll be many more after this one. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.